here. So for our next talk, we have Alexander Plavin, and he'll be talking about lightweight compensable plotting. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Indeed, I'm Alexander or Sasha Plavin. I'm a postdoc at Harvard now, working on astrophysics. And today we'll talk about like a slightly different take on composable convenient plotting with a focus on being really kind of like lightweight. So it's much thinner layers than algebra of graphics. And in my opinion, it's kind of more composable. So first of all, what is MakieExtra? It has a bunch of stuff, not just FPlot that I will be talking about today. And this is just a collection of like generically useful tools for Makie that are not included in Makie itself for various reasons. They range from short convenience function to full-blown plotting recipes. Today we'll be talking about FPlot that kind of stands on its own. It started as a proof of concept. That's why I just put it into MakieExtra that I already had. And now it's really the primary way I do plotting, and I hope I will show some simple and neat use cases. So really there are kind of two different approaches to data plotting. One is what you typically experience with Plots.gl, Makie.gl, with Matplotlib, with kind of all the common, most popular plotting libraries. You just pass arrays for X, Y, for colors, for markers, for whatever, and these are really independent arrays. The other approach was popularized by the whole like kind of grammar of graphics push with ggplot in R, and that same concept was implemented in algebra of graphics in Julia afterwards. So what is FPlot? Of course, this was really kind of the name that I started with, and a better name is probably pending. So the idea is that it is as convenient as the grammar of graphics, and as composable or even more composable than plotting recipes in Makie itself. In a very simple scenario, you just pass the dataset, an arbitrary collection of elements, and different functions. So like here, you say, okay, the first plotting argument will be x of each data element, the second argument will be y of each plotting element, and the color will be the color property. First of all, like you might not see like how it's different from grammar of graphics approaches. One difference is that we are not limited here to tables, to flat tables. Data can be a collection of any kind of elements, and the mapping to plotting attributes are arbitrary Julia functions. Like here, for example, it's not just accessing some field in some kind of column in the table. It's really kind of apply some Julia functions like real, imaginary, and angle, and whatever else. Also, here, not just most, but all Makie recipes, Makie conversions, anything you implemented, they just work with FPlot. And given that FPlot is itself an object that you pass to like functions like scatter, it is really reusable. So you can create an object, then like plot it in one way, plot it in another way, modify it, to do whatever. And here I just show some example of reusing the FPlot object. So you create it once, specifies it on the x-axis you want the x column, on the y-axis you want the y column, and then you can plot it with scatter plot, with horizontal histogram, with vertical histogram. Everything just works seamlessly. This is kind of the base of it. There are really kind of because it's built on first of all just native Julia composability, but second of all on Makie recipes. It gives you kind of some neat functions almost automatically. For example, here you see that there are no axis labels. Yes, from opaque functions, you just cannot determine axis labels. But if you just use like so-called optics, or I would just say that they're functions that you can inspect, they are not opaque. From accessors.gl, it's a very popular package in Julia. You can just get your axis labels automatically. They are not limited to individual like table columns. You see that like if you have an inverse of a column, it shows as an inverse. You can have units, any functions really. And this works even in pretty complex scenarios as I shown here, and with all Makie recipes. When axis labels are automatic labels are not enough, or you want to specify more plotting attributes like scales, ticks for each label, you don't want to think, okay, like in this plot, this is X scale, so I specify like this is on the X coordinate, so I pass X scale and like X ticks. On another plot, the same axis will be used on the vertical direction, so I will pass like Y ticks. You can just create. Oh, I guess it's easier to show like this. So you can create so-called X functions. Also, naming is can be made better. And in addition to the function itself, you can pass arbitrary axis attributes, labels, scales, ticks. I think these are most common, but anything works. They will be properly converted by appending like X or Y, and you will reusing these functions. You can get really kind of these plots with some axes shared, but they are defined only once, and can mix and match. Of course, these function definitions can be put into some convenience function, some domain-specific packages that, like, if you know, I always plot, for example, here it was, for me, it was Redshift. For someone else, it can be like, I don't know, the date or something. If you always plot it the same way from your kinds of data set, you can just put these kind of definitions into a package and reuse them freely. Another neat feature, given that it's really built on Makie, native Makie recipes. So first of all, FPlot plays very nicely with observables. It's even more straightforward than just using Makie kind of raw plotting interface, because you don't care about like manually keeping track of the same lengths and like updating X and Y and color and whatever all at once. It just you just update the underlying data, and the plot is redrawn. Also, FPlot knows, it knows, is you specify what part of data is mapped along which axis. That's why you can get this kind of interactivity very easily. This is really, so I highlight in bold the changes to the code that are needed to get from a static plot to an interactive plot. Yeah, and this is only possible because you know what portions of data are mapped anywhere. Other widgets are available, like data cursor, rectangle selection as well. And for a quick glimpse of some experimental functionality that is still work in progress. First of all, it is more convenient layouting. Makie has very rich system for like layouting different plots, but for quick inspection plots, exploratory plots, it may be a bit overwhelming. So here, inspired by ggplot, I created a kind of two operators to combine plots horizontally and vertically, and it's easy to create some quick and simple layouts. Faceting is also exists, but it's experimental, because the basic of plot usage is one call. You make one call, you have one plot. Now I'm exploring different ways to do faceting. It works. It's very bare bones. And some caveat, I lied to you a little bit about syntax. Because of limitations in Makie, axis labels, interactive widgets cannot just work with like original scatter or lines functions. They require, you just need to put xplot around it. That's it. Then you get the automatic labels and everything. So, and kind of the summary, FPlot is kind of a way to do plots with Julia native composability and the convenience of grammar graphics. It unlocks unique features, from flexible attribute specifications to the rich interactions I was showing. And I also find it usable not just as an end user, but to provide domain-specific plot recipes, access functions in packages. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to discuss it further.
Thank you so much for the talk. We have time for one or two quick questions.
Hi. Yeah, very cool package. I think it is. Yeah, I see a slightly different use case than AOG, but that's great. It's always good to have options. So my question was, I didn't see any plots, I think, where you layered multiple things on top of each other.
Oh, you just do it with exclamation marks, same as in regular Makie. Just call a plot several times.
And how does that work with the axis?
It assumes that axes are consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, because that's something you can shoot yourself on the foot with, right?
Yeah. I mean, currently in Makie, the thing with dimensional access has very spotty support even in Makie itself, so I didn't go into that direction at all.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, thanks.
I'm confused about the tagline because you say, more composable than raw graphics, but part of the point of grammar of graphics is composability, right? So I don't why do you see that different than
So I mean, first of all,
like putting these
yeah.
features as extensions of grammar of graphics?
Oh, so in grammar graphics, you have a lot of limitations. First of all, it natively works with only flat tables. Here it works with arbitrary functions and handles them as third class. Second of all, here we automatically compatible with all Makie recipes, not just most of them. And it really works natively with observables. Everything is, it really composes. Also, you can put it in packages, reuse the same specification. I think this is more flexible in this approach. These are just good points.
Thank you so much. So let's thank our speaker.